An explosion rocks a power plant, leaving several dead and injured. I'm Janet Choi in Middletown, Connecticut. We'll have details coming up.
Also, a bill to create one of the most stringent renewable energy standards in the country passes a key test. And the coal industry complains about the White House plan to have states raise their mining fees, calling that a blow to U.S. jobs and the economy.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good Monday morning. I'm Tyler Suiters in for Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report on this 8th day of February 2010. We're following breaking news right now. Commerce Secretary Gary Locke and NOAA are set to announce what they call a major climate initiative later today. The agency calls this, quote, a fundamental enhancement of NOAA's climate services. For more than a year now, the agency has been considering creating a national climate service, what would be a federal clearinghouse for information ranging from climate change predictions to detailed plans for alternative power. Also, the White House budget proposal, which came out last week, includes major funding for NOAA, specifically its climate-related satellite program. We'll have details on this announcement later today here on Clean Skies News. And right now we'll move to the latest on this weekend's deadly power plant explosion in Connecticut. Workers for construction company O&G Industries were purging a gas line at the time of the explosion. Clean Energy Systems had been building the natural gas plant in Middletown for 2 years. The 620-megawatt facility would have been one of the biggest in New England built in recent years. Clean had an agreement in place for the electricity with Connecticut Light and Power, and that plant was scheduled to be completed sometime later this year. This morning, CBS News correspondent Janet Choi reports.
This was the sound many in Middletown, Connecticut say they expected to hear after an explosion rocked their community.
It felt as though something had hit my house.
Felt a large boom and then everything shook.
Emergency officials say a large building in a natural gas-fired power plant exploded just after 11 a.m. Sunday. The 620-megawatt facility is owned by Clean Energy and was under construction. An estimated 50 construction workers were reportedly inside the building when the back wall was blown out, killing at least 5 workers and injuring at least 12.
It's horrible.
Paul Venti is also a construction worker and says he knows many of the dead and injured.
We got some people up there, they got little kids at home, and we lost them.
The power plant itself is fairly secluded. It's about a mile down this road and a mile from any homes. Officials say the community was never in any danger. Search and rescue crews plan to be on scene through Monday, sifting through the rubble, even though fire officials say they've accounted for everyone.
Similar to what you would see on TV for the earthquake in Haiti, same type of situation.
Emergency officials say at the time of the explosion, construction workers were purging the gas lines and performing tests. Investigators have ruled out terrorism. They still want to know what caused the gas to ignite. Janet Choi, CBS News, Middletown, Connecticut.
Well, obviously we are closely following that story. We'll keep you updated with the latest details throughout the day. Elsewhere, a bill that would increase Colorado's renewable energy standard has now passed its first test. That measure was approved Friday by the state's House Transportation and Energy Committee, and it would require large utility companies to generate nearly 1/3 of their electricity from renewable resources by the year 2020. That bill is one of the top priorities this year for Colorado Governor Bill Ritter. The measure now goes to the House Appropriations Committee. Democrats say the proposed rules would give Colorado the highest renewable energy standard in the West and one of the highest nationally as well. Republicans, however, say it will needlessly drive up the cost of electricity. Virginia's Surry County Board of Supervisors has now approved permits that could bring the state's largest coal-fueled power plant to the area. The board unanimously approved permits for about 350 acres outside Dendron, a tiny town in that county. That is where Old Dominion Electric Cooperative plans to build the 1,500-megawatt Cypress Creek Power Station. Cost estimates for the project run from $4 to $6 billion. While most of the plant would be in Dendron, a fly ash landfill and water intake facility would be built elsewhere in the county. Co-op spokesperson Jeb Hockman says this vote allows federal and state environmental agencies to start testing that site. Opponents say the plant's emissions would harm the environment as well as people's health. Supporters say the area needs new jobs and also the tax revenue this plant would generate. President Obama's plan to cut federal payments for mining regulation is not sitting well with coal companies. National Mining Association President Hal Quinn calls the budget proposal, quote, a new tax that will cost jobs and hurt the economy. The federal spending plan released last week would cut $16.7 million for support payments to the states from the Federal Office of Surface Mining, Reclamation, and Enforcement, and it would also ask states to raise the money with fees on the mining industry. Agency Chief Joe Pisarcik says this plan reflects the Obama administration's priority of scaling back on fossil fuel subsidies. The move comes as DOE reports declines in both coal production and the amount of electricity generated from coal, down in 2009 to about 45% of U.S. power. Liquid Environmental Solutions, this is a wastewater processing company in Mobile, Alabama. It has now stopped accepting shipments of runoff wastewater from an Alabama landfill that is receiving coal ash. The ash, which is laced with arsenic, mercury, and some other heavy metals, is all left over from the 2008 coal ash spill at the TVA Kingston plant in Tennessee. After being treated by the processing company, the wastewater then was routed through the Mobile area water and sewer system, then discharged into Mobile Bay. And that had some residents up in arms. The Dallas-based company's senior vice president, Dana King, said the shipments have been stopped because of local concerns, even though the company has properly accepted, tested, and treated the non-hazardous Perry County landfill wastewater. A Florida environmental lawyer has filed a notice of intent to sue the operators of that treatment plant on behalf of local residents. A spokesperson for TVA says the decision by Liquid Environmental Solutions to stop accepting this wastewater is something that will have to be worked out between its contract disposal company and the co-owner of that landfill. This morning, New Mexico lawmakers are laying the groundwork for large-scale carbon capture and sequestration in that state. The New Mexico Senate has now approved a bill that establishes ownership rights for so-called pore spaces. These are empty spaces underground. But this comes only after a lengthy debate about property rights, effects on oil and gas development, and the unknowns surrounding the injection of large amounts of CO2 underground. Opponents argue there are too many unanswered questions right now about CCS technology and the liability issues that may come up as a result. Supporters, on the other hand, argue that lawmakers should take the first step rather than simply waiting for the courts to decide. Magnum Energy now says it plans to dig a series of underground caverns to be used to store compressed air generated by a wind and solar farm in central Utah. That compressed air will run into a turbine to produce electricity at times when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing. The caves will be hollowed out of a massive salt deposit 1 mile underground. Magnum says the caverns will be used to store natural gas or liquid petroleum, and also some converted to air when the wind and solar farms are running. The company says that when completed, these caves will be able to hold billions of cubic feet of natural gas, liquid petroleum, or compressed air and produce power on a megawatt scale. Expected capacity was not given. Currently, though, there are only 2 commercial-scale compressed air power plants running. One is here in the U.S. in Alabama. The other is in Germany, but there are other projects now underway in Ohio and Iowa as well. Well, much of the D.C. area is shut down because of the major weekend snowstorm we saw here. However, this much is taking place. A White House meeting between President Obama and Interior Secretary Ken Salazar. This is closed to the press. It does get underway at 1:45. We'll be looking for details throughout the day and keep you up to date. And that is this Monday morning edition of the Energy Report. You can reach our team here in Washington anytime by contacting us at contact@cleanskies.com. And you can follow us throughout the day on Twitter and Facebook as well. I'm Tyler Suiters. We're glad you're with us. You're watching Clean Skies News.